In Gaza, we continue to witness a U.S.-backed Israeli war crime almost beyond words. Millions desperately hungry, hurtling toward mass death. A live-stream genocide before the eyes of the world. But in addition to giving this full backing and vicious support, the fascist Trump regime is actively suppressing any and all criticism of Israel, any and all ability to tell the truth about what's happening in Gaza, and using this as a battering ram to further attack immigrants, protesters, and in particular against academia. While some of this began under Biden, it has taken a qualitative fascist leap. At the end of July, Columbia University made a deal with Trump to restore federally granted university funds in exchange for a whole range of conditions, including agreeing to establish as policy that all criticism of Israel should be treated as identical to hatred toward Jewish people. In other words, equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And this is now campus policy. It is anti-Semitic to question the legitimacy of the Jewish supremacist state of Israel. It is campus policy that it is anti-Semitic to compare the mass slaughter of Palestinian children taking place now to the horrific crimes that Nazi Germany committed against Jewish people during World War II. But here's the problem. The comparison is true. This active, systematic, conscious genocide of the Palestinian people does echo the forced starvation and the systematic slaughter of the Jewish people in Nazi Germany. But this truth is forbidden on college campuses. And students can be and already have been suspended or expelled for saying this. Faculty cannot even discuss these truths in classes. Rashed Khaledi is a longtime Columbia professor and historian, and he's written and taught extensively about the history of the Middle East. He was set to teach a course on the Middle East history this fall, but was forced to withdraw because, as he said, the university's draconian, vicious, repressive policies and new definition of anti-Semitism make much teaching impossible. He wrote, "A simple description of the discriminatory nature of Israel's 2018 nation-state law, a law that states that only Jewish people have the right of self-determination in Israel, half of whose people are Palestinian, or talking about the apartheid nature of its control over millions of Palestinians who've been under military occupation for 58 years would be impossible in a Middle East history course under this new definition of anti-Semitism." Khaledi went on to write that Columbia's capitulation has turned a university that was once a site of free inquiry and learning into a shadow of its former self, an anti-university, a gated security zone with electronic entry controls, a place of fear and loathing, where faculty and students are told from on high what they can teach and say under penalty of severe sanctions. And disgracefully, all of this is being done to cover up one of the greatest crimes of this century, the ongoing genocide in Gaza, a crime which Columbia's leadership is now fully complicit. So Trump views Columbia's deals as a model for U.S. colleges and is using similar blackmail tactics against or in other ways targeting Harvard, Brown, UPenn, Cornell, Duke, Princeton, Northwestern, and more than 50 others. And in addition to Columbia, Brown and UPenn have shamefully capitulated. This needs to be opposed right now and on every college campus, with people defiantly speaking the truth no matter the consequences. There needs to be mass non-compliance against this, aimed at stopping this horrific genocide and aimed at preventing the Trump fascist regime from carrying out its fascist program of turning the universities into a dead zone where truth about the nature of America's crimes are forbidden. We wrote on revcom.us this week that the U.S. has provided 70% of what it has cost for Israel to carry out this genocide. 70%. Think about that. 70% of the bombs paid for by the U.S. 70% of the many tens of thousands killed. 70% of what it costs for the Israeli army to keep the blockade of Gaza funded and its people starving to death. This is not an Israeli genocide and never has been. It is a U.S. Israeli genocide, with the U.S. providing the bulk of funding, without which Israel could not carry out its depraved slaughter and starvation. So we in this country have a disproportionate responsibility. You on college campuses have a disproportionate responsibility to demand that this end and to stand up and tell the truth in the face of fascist lies and utter repression. End the siege on Gaza now. Stop the U.S.-Israeli genocide against the Palestinian people. And in the name of humanity, refuse to accept a fascist America.